now we are moving on to installing the steering bell crank front bulkhead. So there we go. It's the next section. So we are going to need the main chassis deck and bag 2. We're going to put, so we've got these arms left behind and a few shims left from bag number 1. So we're just going to put them to one side and then start with the next bit. It's got bag number 2 with all of the front bulkhead, and so we can install this, the steering bell crank onto the chassis. So let's go. Opening this bad boy up. Plastic fantastic. In this case, definitely fantastic, because the RDX is like the best platform to start off with. You can drop a lot more money for a lot more carbon and a lot more aluminium, but when it comes down to it, this bad boy will hang with any of the top chassis for a fraction of the cost. It's already been tried and tested at this point. So the rear has obviously got the cutout for the battery. The front, the rails go right the way to the front. So this is the front that we're looking for. And then we have got the lower suspension mount front in this bag. Yet again, another bag. So we want the smaller one out of the two. So this is the lower piece. Snap that off the sprue. Clean up any of the edges. Like so. Right, is going to get screwed with these raised bits facing upwards onto the lower deck, and we are going to use 4 8mm M3 screws out of this handy little baggie to hold them all in. So we have got a selection of various screws. We want to use these countersunk ones, and like I've said before, if you have watched any of my old videos, it's always good to catch these all the screws in by hand first. Like so. Right, catch them all loosely so you can make sure that everything is properly aligned, and then we can tighten them all up afterwards. Now, the only size of countersunk that you've got in this bag are the 8mm ones. So as long as you pick up one of the countersunk screws, you'll be putting the right ones in the right place. We've got the lower plate installed there, and now we are going to move on to installing the bell crank steering, and now this floats into these other holes at the back here. With some more countersunk screws. I do have a load of gold bolts for these, but that is something that can wait for another time, because right now I just want to make sure I put the right screws in the right places and get used to the chassis. This is already wildly different from my RMX. Already loving it though. So your bell crank attaches with these outer holes here, like so, and then that's it. Completion of steering, bell crank installation, simples. So moving on for the last pieces of bag 2, we have got the front upper suspension mount, the front shock tower, and the front bulkhead, and a bunch of ball studs and various fixing equipments. Very simple. So we're going to take this main upper piece and clean, with stuff flying all over the place, clean off any little burrs. So we don't want any of that. Like so. You can see here, these are going to be where the pins for the upper arms go through. And you've got holes on the front there, sticking out on the front. These go to the back. So this is the front face. This facing the front, like so. And then you've got some M3x8 screws that screw into this piece, and then this piece goes on top. So let's just get all of these cut. So, and then we'll trim everything up. So we've got that, bunch of different size screws, some 8s, 10s, and some ollie. So we can come down here and go, there are 8s. Yep, so these smaller ones. And these top ears here is what's going to go through for the 8mm, and then screw into the front of the bulkhead. So like I always say, make sure you catch them loose before you tighten them up. Then once you're happy, you can then tighten up beforehand. So that's that front bulkhead screwed on there, and then we've got the top piece that screws on with the 12mm. The 12mm being the slightly longer one. We got it. 12mm being the longest ones. They drop down through there, and by the looks of it, this is kind of the same either side, and then there's the two frontmost holes. So a couple of turns just to make sure they are going to fit where they need to go, and then boom, like so. Lovely jubbly. Right, so that is that attached, and then I'm guessing we can move on to, oh, do not forget to put the ball ends either side for your suspension. May well have to space these out yet, I'm not sure, because the Overdose HG2s and HG3s are quite sort of fat bodied. Now we've got the ball ends on the side there as well, so we are ready to install with the remaining screws. You've got two 10mm screws and two 8mm countersunks, and they are just going to go over with the 8mm countersunks, the 8mm countersunks on the bottom and the 10mm dome heads on the top. So far this has gone together lovely. Screw this in like so. And next we're going to be moving on to installing the servo. So I've got the Reve RS ST servo that I've been using previously on my RMX. I've gone back to using the Oniseki servo on the RMX, so I can use the Reve servo on this one. So now that we have got that all sorted, we've got the front bulkhead and the steering assembly properly sorted, we can move on to bag number 3. Bag number 3, we've got servo mounting blocks and the servo horns as well. We are definitely going to need the mounting blocks. Got a little bag of hardware as well. I'm going to have to switch some things up. Right, so we've got a couple of 8mm countersunks, a couple of washers, a couple of 8mm, and a ball end. There's 3 of those. So we've got one for the servo, and then we've got here a 25T and a 23T 21mm long servo horn. So this should already be centered because I've used it on my old RMX, so it should already be where it needs to be. I took it off after centering it and making sure that everything was good. I haven't touched it since. This aftermarket aluminium horn looks to be a little bit closer in this way, and it's taller as well, although the bottom hole is about the same height as this one. But just to make sure everything is good, I'm going to go ahead and fit this one. And then the ball end goes in reverse, like over the top of the servo. Once I've got these caught, you see there's a bit of movement there for the servo. There's a bit of movement on the horns, so what I'm going to say is it's probably best to snap the steering on, and you can see there's a little bit of movement. So I'm going to get that all located as it should be before tightening everything up. And now we have it. We have our Reve servo attached to our Reve chassis with the bulkhead and the bell crank system all on.